Hey everyone. Okay, so obviously following last week, you get the big reveal that Professor Weisz technically isn't Joker, but he did create it, as the name Joker Helix is actually a sentient program created from a video game engine that Professor Weisz had created. And putting aside the horrific thought of the professor being responsible for a potential AI apocalypse for a moment, I find it actually absolutely hilarious that none of this was intentional at all. It was all on just pure base accident. It was a byproduct of the professor just fucking around with AI and adding it to his video game. And yet it is still so, and yet despite the horrendous miscalculation, it is still so hilariously on brand that we as readers know Professor Weisz enough to where we can kind of say that this is extremely on brand. It is extremely on brand that this older version of Professor Weisz would do this. Like this is such a Professor Weisz is such a chaotic force of genius that he just creates evil on accident. That is just who he is. Like it is amazing to me that's kind of how it ultimately played out. Like Professor Weisz, you done fucked up. That is all I can say on the matter. You done fucked up, and I can't lie. It is hilarious when you fuck up. It really is fucking hilarious to see this guy fuck up. Like, holy, and this is a fuck up. Like, holy shit, this is a fuck up. Like, oh my god, Professor, what did you do? But okay, being serious about it, jokes aside and being serious though, the chapter also wastes no time in showing that Joker has taken over Miltz, and through a comm transmission, says it's after the Mother Ether, which in itself all but confirms me that yes, Rebecca's power in some form or another is key that's needed to open the gate to find Mother, and that is why Joker targeted her. But it's also through this revelation that, yeah, Rebecca, by virtue of having the power she does, is now technically the new priestess of time. She has inherited all of her mother's powers and, I guess, titles. And Rachel, which in itself, means Rachel herself is now powerless. And it makes me wonder if that's just a side effect of being in the body of Universe Zero Rachel. But considering the laws of how Universe Zero works, I'm imagining this might probably be a permanent thing. That even if they go back, she might not have her powers. Even when we go back to her own universe, she might not have her powers anymore. Which means this puts Rebecca square in the spotlight of everything. And I'm not gonna lie, that does make me worry for her and just what Rebecca's fate is gonna be by the end of the series. Because again, we have to remember, even though Mashma has played it safe in certain moments with this particular. Even though Weisz has relatively played it a little bit safe with this Universe Zero arc to some degree, we still got to remember he is still willing to take a lot more risks with this series as well. And I wouldn't be surprised if he does choose to kind of kill Rebecca. I wouldn't be surprised if he does. Like, just we can't rule out any possibilities of what he does to Rebecca at this point. But I also. Again, on that lighter note, though, I also really like how our Weisz has no reservations about calling his older self out on his bullshit for really putting their lives in danger, and a lot of the professor's reactions in this chapter were just gold, like comedic gold, honestly. Crossing over from all that, though, Professor Weisz also explains in the beginning of the chapter that the ability the copy of that Joker was using is actually just it isn't so much the ability to stop time, but more so slow it down, as we see when everyone goes back to normal, and because there is a radius to it now, and now that they were out of its range, they were free. And honestly, I think when it comes to this, how the professor explained this power, how it worked, and how we visually see it, I get the feeling this is likely to be, like, this power to slow down time is likely to be something that will be much better portrayed in the anime, because if the professor didn't explain the power the way he did, I never would have been able to tell the difference between time being stopped and time being slowed down. So maybe the anime can visually portray that in a way the manga didn't, and that doesn't even answer the $1,000,000 question yet, though, of how it even obtained these powers to begin with. Like, I know the professor said it absorbed knowledge and data from all over the cosmos, so that would basically have to mean that Joker had programmed the ability to manipulate time into itself, or was it something else? Because even if a world as crazy as Eden Zero, I don't think it's possible to just create or replicate a power. The only logical explanation is that Joker says no one will escape my rift in time, so it at the very least had to have, I guess, in some way learned how to harness the power of time from the information. It probably, like, if I had to guess a source as to where it got this power from, it probably absorbed data information from the church itself. That would be my best guess anyway of how this is possible, and even more so just from how it knows that the gate to Mother is on Milts. Like, it in the process of, like, absorbing information and the ability to stop time, to slow down time, it probably also gained that knowledge of of where Mother is. So, like, it probably absorbed the knowledge of both. Although it seemingly couldn't find even though it managed to absorb all this information, it seemingly couldn't find a way to cross the rift, find Mother either, which is again why it needs Rebecca. Now, with that said, Weisz also brings up a very intriguing observation in this chapter, which is to say, this Professor Weisz still has both hands. There's no prosthetic. So it does intrigue me about what this Weisz's history is, but also, the more I thought about it, how is Professor Weisz even here, or even more so, how does he exist in this world? Because I know that Mashima, through Zhao Mei, had basically said, don't stress about the time travel logistics, but something about the professor existing in a world where his still rather young mother is alive really throws me off. Like, is it just one of those things where there's supposed to be an older and younger Weisz existing alongside each other in each universe? Or is this our Professor Weisz that got transported here somehow? Because that is the one thing about this chapter that's a little vague and doesn't entirely answer. Like, which Weisz are we dealing with here? I mean, I guess judging from the interactions with the characters, it would have to be our Professor Weisz, but I don't know. It's not really all that clear about this one. Although, if I did have to take an educated guess, I think I guess this could be our Professor Weisz. And also, I think Professor Weisz still having his arm might be Mashima giving us, like, the first big idea of what Universe Zero's, like, reformatting of reality looks like, and how that could how Professor Weisz having his arm back in this universe could very well transfer over into our universe once this is all said and done. Although assuming our Professor Weisz and this Professor Weisz are two different people, it does also have me intrigued for what this Weisz's history is like, just from the fact that he does still have his arm. Again, assuming we're dealing with two different Professor Weisz's here, mind you. But, yeah, guys, that's pretty much all I got for this review. If you enjoyed the video, like, comment, subscribe, follow me on Twitter, Analyst, Crunchyroll, push the notification bell, hit the subscribe button, and just share the video around, guys. Dark Knight of Money signing off. Later, everyone.